In the summer of 70 AD, the hills around Jerusalem glowed orange. On the ridgeline, families huddled together and watched their world end. A woman pressed her child's face against her chest so he could not see. An old man stood apart, lips moving in a prayer no one could hear. Firelight caught the tears streaking through dust on a young man's face. The Second Temple, white marble adorned in gold, the holiest site in Judaism, was consumed by flame. By dawn, it was gone. Embers rose like inverted stars against the blackened sky. What remained was a silence that would echo for 2,000 years. This is the story of how it happened. Judea, a strip of land at the edge of the Mediterranean, smaller than most Roman provinces, yet home to a people unlike any Rome had encountered. They worshipped one God, not many, and believed he had chosen them. This made them extraordinary. It also made them ungovernable. When Herod the Great died, Rome grew tired of ruling through local kings and imposed direct control. Taxes were levied. A census was ordered. The man placed in charge was not a senator, but a junior official. A wandering teacher was asked, "Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar?" His answer was masterful. "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's." You had to swear allegiance to their emperor, endure military occupation, submit to taxation that bled you dry. In other words, no comment. For 60 years, the pressure built. Prophets promised deliverance. Messiahs rose and were crushed. The question was not if Judea would explode, but when. Rome controlled the known world. Judea was a speck on the map. But this speck contained something Rome could not comprehend. A people who would die before they would worship another god. Their law was written. Their covenant was absolute. Their God was one. And Rome, with all its legions, could not understand why they would not bend. An unstoppable empire met an immovable faith. Something had to break. Pontius Pilate, prefect from AD 26, was the worst of them. He marched legionary standards bearing the emperor's image into the holy city. To the Jews, this was not politics, it was blasphemy. The Jews did something Rome had never seen. They lay down, hundreds of them, face down in the streets, in silent, absolute refusal. The standoff lasted 5 days. They did not move, they did not speak. On the 6th day, Pilate threatened to hack them all to death. They bared their necks. Pilate blinked first. He removed the standards. But the damage was done. A line had been crossed that could not be uncrossed. Later, prefects raided the temple treasury. Sacred money stolen for Rome. Riots erupted. Roman soldiers cut down protesters in the streets. Self-proclaimed messiahs promised divine deliverance. Prophets gathered followers in the desert. Rome executed them all, but more kept coming. Each one was nailed to a cross on the road outside the city. By the late 50s, the fuse was lit. All it needed was time. By the late 50s, whispers of revolt had given birth to something new. Something the ancient world had no name for. We do. Terrorism. They called themselves the Sicarii, the Dagger Men. They were the world's first urban terrorist cells. A flash of steel. The official staggers. The attacker melts back into the crowd. Josephus describes them with chilling precision. They murdered in broad daylight, concealed daggers under clothing, then pretended to share the crowd's own horror. A climate of fear settled over Jerusalem. The city was afraid of itself. The Sicarii were not alone. Zealots demanded open revolt, and ordinary people found it more dangerous to oppose the radicals than to join them. Farmers became fighters. Scholars became soldiers. There was no going back. Gerhard. By AD 66, the powder keg was full. All it needed was a spark. In AD 66, Jewish rebels swarmed the Roman garrison. Swords clashed. Roman soldiers, outnumbered, were overwhelmed. The eagle standard was trampled. For a moment, it felt like liberation, But only for a moment. Almost immediately, the resistance fractured. Moderates were silenced. Extremists seized control. The fanatics insisted on fighting, even as Rome mobilized its war machine. Rome did not send a detachment. It sent 4 full legions, 20 auxiliary units, and allied forces. 1/7 of its entire military, 1/7 of Rome's entire military, assembled to crush a province smaller than Wales. The Emperor Vespasian sent his son Titus to finish it. In the spring of AD 70, Titus began the siege of Jerusalem. Battering rams, catapults, siege towers, the city was completely encircled. No one could leave. No food could enter. Refugees who had fled the countryside seeking safety behind the walls had walked into a trap. A mother divided a handful of grain between her children. It was all she had. Outside, the battering rams pounded day and night. The sound never stopped. Catapulty stones arced over the walls and crashed into homes below. The siege lasted 5 months. The militants refused to surrender, even as civilians starved, even as walls crumbled, even as all hope vanished. Titus made his message clear. 500 prisoners were crucified each day, their crosses erected in full view of the defenders. He only stopped when his army ran out of wood to make crosses. From the walls, the defenders watched. And still, they would not surrender. Inside the walls, starvation became madness. People ate leather. They ate grass. They fought over scraps like animals in the streets. One by one, the walls fell. First the outer wall, then the second, then the third. When the Romans broke through, Josephus tells us, they slaughtered everyone they met, choking the alleys with corpses and drenching the city in blood. A family hid in a cellar. The father pressed his hand over his daughter's mouth. This was carnage on a grand scale. The streets ran with blood. The Romans fought their way toward the temple, the heart of everything. The temple, white marble and all in gold, was consumed by fire. Whether it was deliberate or accidental, we do not know. It burned. Only the great stone platform remained, what we now call the Temple Mount. Roman soldiers stood before the burning temple. There was nothing to celebrate. From the ruins, a voice rose, a woman singing a Hebrew lament, the first of millions that would follow across 2,000 years. Titus ordered the walls razed to the ground. Then he ordered the entire population out. Every man, woman, and child expelled from the city. At the gates, soldiers confiscated everything, valuables, donkeys. They were stripped of all they had. From the hills, they looked back one last time. Jerusalem in ruins, the Temple Mount bare. This was the last time they would see it. Josephus claims that 1,100,000 perished and 97,000 were taken prisoner. The numbers may be exaggerated. The suffering was not. Many survivors were sold into slavery. Others were reserved for the circus, condemned to die fighting each other or being mauled by beasts. In Rome, Titus held his triumph. Sacred temple vessels, the golden menorah, the silver trumpets, paraded as trophies through cheering streets. They carved the scene into an arch that still stands in Rome today. But Titus himself refused a victor's wreath. There is no glory, he said, in defeating a people abandoned by their God. The survivors scattered, east to Babylon, west across the Mediterranean, north into Europe. The great diaspora had begun. They carried nothing but their faith and their memory of what was lost. But the story does not end with the fall. It ends with a fortress, Masada, 1,300 feet above the desert, the last stand of a people who refused to die on Roman terms. 960 zealots held it, men, women, and children determined to resist. Rome did what Rome always did. They built. 8 camps surrounded the fortress. A circumvallation wall sealed it completely. No one could escape. Then they began building a ramp, a massive earthen ramp up the western cliff face. The laborers who carried the stones were Jewish prisoners. From the walls above, A defender recognized someone below, a brother carrying stones. After weeks of construction, the ramp was complete. A siege tower was rolled into position. On the final night, the defenders of Masada gathered together and made a choice. They would not surrender. They would not become slaves. They would not die for Rome's entertainment. They chose death on their own terms. 10 men were chosen by lot, pottery shards with names. A hand reached down. 960 people. And then there were none. When the Romans broke in at dawn, expecting a battle, they found only silence. 960 bodies arranged with care, families together. The temple was gone, the walls were gone, the people were scattered across the earth. But something survived that Rome could never burn. Their faith survived the fire. Their God did not vanish with the temple. Where there was no temple, they built synagogues. Where there was no homeland, they made community. Centuries passed. Empires rose and fell. The Romans themselves became a memory. But the Jews remained, reading the same words, keeping the same faith. Only one wall of the temple platform survived. One wall was enough. The bare stone became the most sacred site in Judaism, not for what stands there, but for what was lost and what endured. Every hand pressed against that wall carries 2,000 years of memory. Notes tucked into every crack, prayers written on paper slipped into ancient stone. Modern faces, ancient grief. The same tears that fell 2,000 years ago still fall here. At the same wall, before the same stones. Hundreds stand before it, praying, weeping, touching the ancient stone. The wall that survived everything. The faith that survived everything. Rome threw 1/7 of its military against them. Rome is dust now. The wall remains. Every hand pressed against that ancient stone says one thing. The temple is gone. The wall remains. And every hand on that ancient stone says what Titus could never understand. We are still here.